morning from Tollymore Forest Park. It's a breezy morning. The sun is up, but you can't see it, and there's cloud over the top of the mountain. It looks really nice actually. So breakfast at 7 AM now. Breakfast, pack up and press on to Newry, and then I shall be in the Republic of Ireland before midday probably. So it really feels like the trip's coming to an end now. I think there's less than 200 miles to go, probably about that. And I was struck yesterday by the generosity of people, because not only did John give me the bread and cheese and the jammy dodger, this pitch was supposed to be £23 a night, and because they said they got no small tent rate for, you know, the hiker, cyclist, motorcyclist rate is more or less all the same. So they just let me pitch up for nothing, and they wouldn't accept a lower rate. So I was very grateful for them to that, because the money's starting to run out now towards the end of the trip. And yeah, so that should help me pay the Dublin youth hostel fee if I get there today. So yeah, very grateful actually. Saved a wild camp, although I wouldn't have minded a wild camp. It's nice to have a shower after 80 miles on a dusty road from Belfast. Right, we're leaving the forest park, and onto the B road. Newry is the last town in Northern Ireland. Before the Republic. That's a couple of miles though. So it's been I'll do a review of the day now, I may as well, just on the road, because I've been thinking it over. Just thoughts and musings of life on the road. It's been 3 weeks now, and a day or two, so I've found I've really started to settle into it. It took about 10 days, but I felt a lot better since I passed the halfway mark, a lot more relaxed and, you know, chilled out a bit. Because I used to, you know, like worry about, am I doing enough miles a day? And stuff like that. So I still like to do more than 50, but apart from that, I'm not too bothered. I've noticed my fitness has gone up I've got better at riding for longer. You know, I think yesterday I was paused for less than 2 hours and I was riding for 6. Whereas sometimes earlier on it was like a 50-50 split between the paused and the ridden time. So yeah, so Galway to Belfast was probably my favourite section. Nice 10 days in a tent every night, cheap campsites, just stopping at Lidl's for food, and yeah, that's really nice. And then suddenly you're in Belfast, and bloody hell, that was a shock, that was. Because you go from having your own tent and a quiet night, and then you're in a dorm with 3 other people I was, which, you know, you're under a roof and the window and stuff, and you have like this culture shock as well, because there's a very real sense of history in Belfast, and it's very on display, both the recent and the recent Troubles history and the pre-Irish independence history as well. All the huge statues of the, you know, Queen Victoria and the you know, the Governor Generals of India, and all of that. You have that massive juxtaposition of imperial prosperity and the Troubles. I don't know whether you call it a civil war, but everyone calls it the Troubles, so we'll call it that. It seems a bit euphemistic, really. But and then you have the modern times, where everyone's sort of just milling around like it's just any other place, and going to hen parties and restaurants and doing what people do. But I noticed in the strongest contrast, you're sat in the Belfast City Hall by the memorial to the men of Ulster. There's that quote, "The men of Ulster proved how nobly they fight and die." I think that was George I who said that, but I could be mistaken. But you have the massive architecture of all the stone that took decades to carve and build, and then the statues of all the people who all have that sort of expression of self-assured confidence. And then suddenly you're out in the street and you're avoiding some foreign person who's doing a Just Eat delivery on an electric bike on the pavement, who's wearing motorcycle clothes, and you think, well, what a change in the nature of civilization. That's what struck me anyway. You can sense a loss in a way of an age when Britain was extremely powerful, for better or worse, and to an age when now I think where Britain thinks it's still a world leader and it isn't. So there's that, and then there's the memorials to all the people who were murdered by the EIRE, and then the memorials to the people who were, well, I was going to say murdered by the Protestants, but I'm talking from a position of ignorance, really, because none of this stuff is taught in, well, it wasn't taught in my school anyway, so I turn up completely from a position of not really knowing what's gone on. You know who people like Bobby Sands are, but you learn that from your parents, and you know, and like other people, and you know, just like you don't learn it in an official setting, and maybe that's for the better these days, I don't know, but it's certainly strange. You're walking down, well, I rode through the gates, and suddenly you're from, you know, like the Royal British Legion memorials and the Union flags and the you know, the flags I'm familiar with from growing up in Worcestershire. Apart from the Northern Ireland flags and the William III flags, we didn't have any of them, but suddenly you're in the other side, and it's obviously the Irish flag's there, and that's to be expected, but then there's like Palestine and Nelson Mandela and a Che Guevara mural. Now, I don't know what that's got to do with, well, I think the connection there is the whole freedom fighter thing, and international solidarity, and like the left-wing movement and stuff. So you're seeing all that. So you see all that stuff, and in like the space of 2 hours, when you've been riding for 10 days and you've seen 2 sets of traffic lights and stopped at Lidl's twice, and then you're in this mad place where, well, it's just like, it was just a culture shock, I think. You know, you're seeing everything all at once for the first time, and sometimes you're seeing it for the 3rd or 4th time, but with new eyes, sort of thing. And then, you know, there's a massive protest. Well, it wasn't massive, it was 200 people total on both sides. There's the gays and the Palestinians versus anti-illegal immigration and the unionist people. And you think, well, you've just come from this like this sort of scenery into this sort of chaos, and it did take some getting used to. You know, there's that, I think I mentioned it, there's that scene in the Crocodile Dundee film where he's walking down the street and everyone's in New York City and everyone's walking the other way, and he's saying hello to people and nobody answers him, and he's getting bumped into, and people like half mumble an apology and stuff. It's a bit like that, really. It's two different worlds. And then you get out of Belfast, and it was nice at first, and then the A2 dual carriageway wasn't very nice, and then it got better. And it was like normal traffic. It was like that all the way down to the site, and I'm very grateful to the Rangers, actually. I did thank them very much for staying. I don't know if I should have thanked them a bit more, but it's like I chalk that up to experience, because I genuinely wasn't expecting that. But yeah, I think they're, you know, it's genuine sort of charity, as it were. Plus also they know then they've not got some, you know, like people wild camping in the forest and all the problems that can arise from wild camping with fires and litter and stuff that the irresponsible people cause. So those are the thoughts I've had for the past since entering Belfast on whatever day that was, because you forget, actually, everywhere's just one night, you know. And you when I was staying for two, like at Biniam Bay and at Galway, I had to have a look at the calendar and see, you know, what day is it today and what day should I leave. Because you do really, you lose sense of what's going on. You know, the king could have died and I wouldn't have known since Galway, probably. Well, I suppose last couple of days, but you're detached from the world, but in another way you're much closer to it. And it's also a very spiritual experience as well. You can feel the presence of God in the countryside and the creation all around, but also in the city, but to a lesser extent. So it's yeah, it's changed a lot for me, the tour has, so I think for the better. And So we're going to Belfast really highlighted the sort of the way the modern world is, and it's got a lot of benefits. But you think, well, does it need to be as crowded and homogenized as it is? The sort of city life, I suppose it's natural that way, that it loses its, well, it develops its own sort of character that's separate from the wider countryside character. So you've got the character of rural Northern Ireland being different from the character of Belfast, even though it's the same country. It's like sort of different national characters sort of thing. Yeah, just a couple of musings there. Bit of a long-winded monologue, but I felt I had to say it, so it gets it out of my mind onto the page. It's like writing a journal. So anyway, today should hit the Republic of Ireland. I think Dublin will be another 80 miles, so doable, but a long way. And there is a hostel directly on the Liffey called Abigail's, and I'll try that one first, just because of the location, really, because my Strava route ends on the Liffey as well, so there's nothing worse than being tired and then getting up Google Maps in a city and trying to find out where you're going, especially if it's like the midnight side of 5 o'clock, which it probably will be. Also, they look the cheapest for a 2-night stay, I think. And then I do want to finish on a Century down to Rosslare, and then so I'll book the ferry in Dublin and push on to Rosslare, and then that'll be it, to be honest. I'll look at sites around Rosslare and see if there's anything to stay at. So I fancy doing a couple of day rides down in, is it down in Wexford, County Wexford, or down there? I should know that, with it being the first county I rode in, but that was a whole other month ago. So yeah, so I'll give it a go. Give Dublin a go today. I've got to stop at Lidl's. I'll do that in the Republic probably. So I am quite light for the hilly bit. And the sun's come out, so I'll have to take my jacket off soon. But I definitely come back to Ireland on a bicycle. Very nice country for touring. And come back as like a normal traveller, shall we say. Yeah, you do sense the longer the trip's gone on, the better it's got, the nicer the people have got, and the better my mentality's certainly got. much more chilled out and relaxed about things. Anyway, I'll leave that there. I think I'm on my last GoPro card, so I wish there was a road sign that said interesting sign coming up that Bryn should film, because I've just seen one and it says, and obviously you miss it by the time you see it and there's such a GoPro on, but it just said prepare to meet thy God, and with God in quotation marks, and I just got this terrible ominous feeling that I'm about to get knocked off my bike by a car coming from behind. Well, there is actually one coming now. Especially with this tarmac in the middle of the road, with the divide between the new and the old. That's very common. You have to really watch out for that on the bike. It's not nice at all. Nah, it's okay, he's seen me. There we go. And the second one has as well. Gosh, he is very patient. Noticed the Irish flag a couple of miles further down the road on the rock, and I wonder if we're in the Gaeltacht. I think that's how you say it, because well, there's no sign for it, and that's the first Gaelic I've seen in Northern Ireland actually, apart from bits in Belfast. But the street signage is you know, it's not bilingual like in Wales. I was sort of half expecting it to be, but it's all been in English so far.